He has a beautiful mind. I just love my boss. He has come up with so many wonderful ideas and ways for us to work better in our office as a staff. And I just want to plug in for Matt. I love it. There you go.
Okay, just give her a pay raise, Matt.
Yeah.
Now that I'm embarrassed, but I have to, now that she left, like she won't hear me do this, but equally I have to say this for Louise. She is a great support. I could not get this job done without her diligence. I'll say diligence because it's just a constant barrage. You really have no idea how much stuff is just coming in and out of this office on a 24-hour cycle. So, and it wouldn't get done if I didn't have her as a writer here. So I appreciate Louise. And let me just give you a few updates about maybe our offices. I didn't plan on this, but just very briefly, we have expanded in some areas. We have 2 policy analysts, which have been hired. Well, we created the positions about 3 years ago, but the 2 initial people in those positions have moved on to other things. And so I don't know if we formally been introduced to Bryce Munford. He's one of our policy analysts. His job is to assist the council on research and looking at the policies and helping them get information that they need to hopefully make better informed decisions. Ryan Harvey's not with us today. I didn't want to make him come in if he wasn't presenting anything, but Bryce will talk to us in just a minute. Josh Johnson is in the back corner. He's going to take a few minutes later. He's part-time with us, but he's doing a great job in trying to broaden our abilities to get the message out to the council, particularly the council. The city has a lot of resources into communication. Mostly those are run by the mayor's office, and so often in the past the council's felt, well, we're not getting our message out or what we're doing or highlighting, and that's important as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the things we're doing to help you understand what the council's dealing with. And to better serve the neighborhood program, I'm probably going to be, I've already told the council leadership this, but probably be coming with a budget request to increase our staffing one step further, better serve the neighborhood program. And now how that's all going to work out and play out, positions and personalities is to be determined, but the intent is Louise has a lot on her plate, too much to adequately serve you, probably to the level that you deserve to be served. She does a great job. I don't want to shortchange her, but her plate is overflowing, and so we probably need to increase some resources there to make sure our programs deserve attention. Let me talk just real quickly, and I was going to write a few words up here. How many have heard this trio? I don't know if that's the right word. Right, the trio of words: the health, safety, and general welfare. How many have heard that a few times? I did a Google search for that exact phrase as it's in our city code, the health, safety, and general welfare. 3.46 million times on Google, mostly on government sites. Just looking at the first couple of pages of search results. There's something about, and I would be interested to find out where this phrase originated, and I didn't have time to research that. Probably won't have time. But it's something that's pervasive in our society and culture as the role of government to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community, of the citizens. And every resolution and ordinance that the council adopts, at the very end, before it actually adopts the ordinance, and whereas the council finds that such and such ordinance resolution reasonably furthers the health, safety, and general welfare of the people of Provo City. And the reason I bring this up because what does that mean? And that's a very broad interpretation to what it means for every individual community and circumstance, and so how do you define that for what it means for your community, for your neighborhood, to increase the health, safety, and general welfare? I'm going to play about a 2-minute clip from a video. It's a documentary. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, I recommend watching this movie. I very recommend to council members. It's called Happy. And this is a different clip than what I've shown them before. It's just really fascinating documentary about happiness. And lots of little vignettes about different aspects of happiness. Now, I'm not saying that this next approach or segment is the answer. It's just something to think about. Is it maybe a different way of looking at life than maybe what we typically fall into?
One small Asian country is taking a different path. Bhutan is a country with a fledgling economy, and one might expect it to follow economic policies that prioritize growth, as do most developing nations.
What we saw was that in the pursuit of economic development, people and societies have lost their cultures, their environment, their social systems, and humanity was having problems. That's why Bhutan said, okay, this is not enough. GDP is not enough. Humanity needs a higher goal for development, and that is gross national happiness.
What they're doing in Bhutan is, instead of trying to maximize gross national product, they're trying to maximize gross national happiness. They're trying to figure out what is it that's going to make our people happy. Not rich, but happy.
We believe that this contentment, this happiness lies within the self, and there's no external source. The faster car, bigger house, more fashionable clothes is not going to give you that contentment. It might give you fleeting pleasure, but not contentment. Gross national happiness is the responsibility of the government to create an environment where citizens can pursue happiness.
So let's say, for example, Bhutan has got lots of potential to dam up its valleys, sell hydroelectricity to India. But when they flood their valleys, they have to move people. When they flood their valleys, they lose their forest cover. They lose some of their sites and spiritual significance to them. So what they want to do is they want to balance these things. They want to think just not, okay, dam this valley, sell this amount of hydro to India for this amount of money, GDP goes up. They want to look at it in a more textured approach.
Gross national happiness is important that it makes us think about what we do, of ourselves as individuals, of society, of the world. Think rationally, think holistically, think spiritually. In terms of environment, our law says 60% of Bhutan must always be forest. In terms of culture, we have monasteries, we have schools to be protected by the state, we have rules of dress, language, architecture. So this is how the government is creating this environment.
If we think about societies, the ultimate purpose of society should be to produce long and happy lives for its citizens.
The people of Bhutan have only recently begun pursuing gross national happiness. And to know how successful they'll be, we'll have to wait and see.
All right.
Another country in a different part of the world consistently ranks as
Denmark.
So again, if you have Netflix, I recommend making a date night. I don't know. Say, honey, I got this documentary I want to watch for date night. We flip off the overhead. So, any thoughts about things that impressed you from that video? Okay.
I was almost shocked. It's always about the money.
Yeah.
It's never about the happiness. So that was quite the twist to see a country decide to go the other direction. At least put the emphasis on the other direction.
Yeah. I'll make a suggestion that maybe this ties back to happiness. Why do we want health? Why do we want safety? Why do we want the general welfare? And if that ties back to our founding documents, that the pursuit of happiness, what is that? And so how do we know as a city or communities what it is that's going to make us happy, or what's going to further promote the health, safety, and welfare? And any thoughts about how we articulate that? I'm fishing for answers. I have one in my mind.
I think we made the right decision with the rec center. I keep hearing that everyone's happy at the rec center.
Okay. So it's a good example of something we hit.
But that's retroactive.
But somebody had to look forward.
Yes.
I mean, I could say the Covey Center for the Arts, because the Recreation Center had to be put on hold for the Covey Center for the Arts to come into fruition. And of course, the Covey Center makes me very happy.
So these are I'll add a couple to the list. Parks, police. I mean, these are all means to creating some type of happiness. Yeah.
Bhutan, I gather, is a Buddhist country. Buddhism, as little as I know about it, is pretty much not worldly. And so they can focus on what makes us feel good. In Western cultures, we are so entrenched with government having endless regulations and things you have to do in an exact way, that sometimes people think that happiness is something that's not attainable.
I was a social scientist in another life, and virtually all of the data suggests that happiness comes from a sense of contributing, helping others, a sense of community, and in our community, of course, that's a family togetherness, but it doesn't necessarily need to be blood relatives. But that's what makes people happy. It isn't stuff, because as soon as you get the latest thing, you want the next latest thing.
So we have values, we have things, and we can go into a lot about what makes us happy. And I think you're right, spot on. If you watch the rest of this video, that you're going to talk about a lot of those things. Being active, contributing, being a partner, doing something worthwhile. Community. There's a little spot on community. Actually, that's what the next spot was about in Denmark. And some of the co-housing projects, which is a really foreign concept for most Americans. But how do we, and we've gone through a very specific process, the last way of trying to articulate our values and the things that we believe as a community are going to deliver health, safety, welfare, or happiness. And rather than continue to fish for answers, we've adopted policies. You know, we have other ones, the general plan, vision documents, the master plans, and they're all supposed to ultimately, these policies, they deliver services and goods that the city provides. But one of the really interesting things about Vision 2030 is it went beyond just the city. It was trying to look holistically at all aspects of life and health and education. And so I'm going to pass this around, and we're going to be short on time. Actually, let's just get 2 stacks here, so several stacks. And I've been working with the council for the last a year and a half now, looking at a model. And this is actually sort of what prompted me to start looking at a model for thinking about these things was actually Mr. Miller, when he came on the council, our chair, suggested we needed to think more holistically and strategically about our job as, not my job, but their job as city councilmen. And so this is one model that we've sort of put together, a way of thinking about how we do, how policies eventually are articulated into outcomes. And you'll see on this circle, and this is not comprehensive, this is just sort of a working model to illustrate the point. But we have these documents called Vision 2030. How many of you are not familiar with Vision 2030? I think it's safe to say you're all familiar with it. I encourage you to go back and read it. In some ways, we should be looking at that to inform other policy documents, the general plan, master plans like the bike master plan or the Parks and Rec master plan, which will then inform the city's 5-year capital improvement plans, which ultimately turn into budgets. And then we have this unique form of government where the council is separate but equal to the mayor and the administration. And in some ways, once that budget's approved, and there's a lot of back and forth on the preparation of all these documents, but the baton is passed to the mayor. It's the mayor, now go and do. Figure it out. How are we going to get to these, I'm going to say, outcomes? Now, how are outcomes different than means? I'm going to throw some eraser. I'll go over in that vicinity. I know Mike Rowan can give me an answer.
The difference between outcomes and means? Is that what you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
I think outcomes are like if you want to build a road, it's the road that exists when you're done, and the means is having the tractors and the people and the road equipment and the earth moving and the blacktop that actually is the process of creating of building the road.
Perfect. Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have an outcome, and I'm going to elaborate maybe on your example of the road. Maybe the policy outcome is we want safe, efficient road systems that facilitate commerce, emergency preparedness, maybe additional things that we recently brought to the table: biking, pedestrians, health, air quality. These are all outcomes that we want maybe for a road system that contribute to good air quality and less emissions, allow a safe environment for everyone, not just cars. So there's a lot of different outcomes you could look expressed solely on a roads policy. Then you have ways to get there. Again, a lot of that are sort of nuts and bolts issues. How do we fill the potholes? What type of surface treatment do we actually apply to this road? What type of experts and consultants do we need to bring in to help advise us in the day-to-day? So why in the world am I talking about this? Maybe two different questions. One, why in the world would we be talking about this concept with the council? And two, as a follow-up, why would we be talking about this with neighborhood chairs? The difference between outcomes and means.
If you don't make the right decisions along the way, you never get where you want to go.
Yeah, and along the same lines, if you don't know where you go, then you know what you do.
How often?
You have to know where you go.
Exactly.
I don't have to drink.
Big heart. Means how to get. Now, say I want to travel. How many ways are there to get them? there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of them car, biking, walk it. Some people do. Now I may have other outcomes. Or use my time wisely. So we think we have outcomes that maybe are extremely competitive. So how do we weigh those outcomes against each other? So I think that's the important discussion for the council. The council, what the council wants to do is say, where you thought, why somebody's throwing out something as a shiny object. And everybody's like, ooh, that's a pretty shiny object. And the whole diversion gets sort of sidetracked. Dave, I know you've had experience on this, you're on the council. How often does that happen when you really ought to be thinking big picture, and somebody threw out a shiny object or a bomb, and you're like, oh, let's go talk about that for an hour. Dave's like, happens, right? How many times does that happen? Now, this is relevant to that. How many times does that happen to area council or to neighborhood meetings? With your neighbors and stakeholders and their.
And you want us to hold more of it.
So again, just a little bit of food for thought. Lunch is here, so I have more of that activity that we do. That was mostly, I always plan activity in case we're really lacking for things that do, and we're not today. So, but be thinking about this in your neighborhood, your role as neighborhood chair. What outcomes do I want in the neighborhood? For my neighbors, for those I live, it's so easy to spend time talking about filling potholes or this meth house. And those are all important things that need to be addressed. I'm not suggesting that they need to be addressed. But because there's so many of them, it's one of those, that's the highly important, highly urgent things. And things that the highly important, non-urgent things always get ignored. Thinking outcomes, thinking long-term, where do you want our neighborhood to go? Those are highly important, non-urgent things. It requires a measure of proactivity to carve out 30 minutes, an hour, to say, we're not going to we're going to close the door on all this shiny object stuff, and we're going to think big picture. What do we need to solve? Big picture solve. What do we need to do? Where do we want to go? What type of happiness, or what are the means that will deliver happiness? So I have a little worksheet. We were going to go through it as a group, but in the interest of time, we're not. I'll pass it out. But you can do this in your own time. Sort of a model for thinking about problems and how to deal with them in a more of an outcome approach. So, brainstorm 5 problems in your neighborhood. Okay, just doesn't matter. Just whatever comes to your mind first, throw it on there. Select one. Okay, second page. What outcome do you want? And there's some ways to think about how to define an outcome policy. What are the results that you want? And you can ask the why question 5 times to sometimes get to the core of the issue. So, well, I want good roads. Well, why do I want good roads? That's a couple paragraphs in itself. Why do I want good roads? Well, why do I want those things? And if they ultimately come back to here, you're on the right track. If you can't get those why questions back to here, maybe you're not on the right track. Who are these outcomes for? For the residents, for a specific stakeholder. And on the scale of relative, that's something we always, we often neglect in our discussions about it. Yes, it may be great to have. So what cost is the outcome worth? Consensus? Well, why not? But again, if you're keeping taxes low and people have their own personal income and just low, you got to balance it. You can't have everything. So what the cost then an opportunity to think about, okay, at this point, I'm going to jump and say, okay, how would you best address this? We're going to look to you. But I didn't thought it was in as much as we or any other expert in the circle, it doesn't mean they have a monopoly on all good ideas. So you can throw out your own ideas, and then this last page is a way to try and determine which of the means best facilitates the outcome you want. It's just a simple rating chart, the scale 1 to 9. If you'd like, I can spend more time on this in a future area council meeting, or we can sit down with you one-on-one. My door is open. I don't know if I've ever articulated that. If any of you would like to come sit down with me or Louise or both of us together, talk about your neighborhoods, things that are going on, how best get the council involved. My door is open. I'd love to sit down with each of you and work with you. So we'll pass it out, but any other thoughts or questions? mtaylor@provo.org. Thank you. Louise?
We're just doing 3 at a time for dinner. I just invite 3 or 4 up to come and serve, and that way we can keep moving on with our meeting. And next we have Bryce Mumford. He's our policy analyst. He'll be going over benchmarking with you. Matt, can you drop that screen down over there?
Louise, the lights.
Yes, lights. Louise, Louise, lights. What else do you want?
Would you throw my phone up on the screen?
Give me some of these. That keeps you
Right.
straight.